Now, several social justice organizations are calling on President Cyril Ramaphosa to release 32 pieces of vacant and underutilized public land to communities. Carl James is political organizer of the organization Ndifuna Ukwazi. She joins me now. Carl, I appreciate your time this afternoon. Just give us a summary of what your petition is.
Hi, thanks for having us on. So we have applied in partnership with a range of social movements directly to the President to donate land into the ownership of communities under the State Land Disposal Act. So yesterday we had 32 applications for different sites of land from nearly 7 or 8 different social movements going to the President's office. And we're encouraging them to allow communities to step forward and be part of a solution in saying, donate this land directly into our community ownership, meet us in terms of bulk service infrastructure and government delivery, government development mechanisms, and we will be able to step forward. And with that tenure security, with that legal ownership, we will be able to build a dignified life for ourselves on those parcels of land. So that's really what these applications are about. And our action yesterday was in order to launch the applications and make the public aware of this as we run up to the 2024 election.
Now, the State Land Disposal Act of 1961 is often seen as a remnant of apartheid-era legislation. How do you view its relevance today, and why are activists urging for its use in the current context?
As far as we're concerned, we need to use all legal mechanisms available to us to ramp up the rate at which we are managing to achieve land reform. Land reform currently is failing the vast majority of South Africans, and we have seen massive delays over the past 30 years that mean that most people, and most of the people that we work with, particularly in urban context, are constantly in continued tenure insecurity, permanently at threat of eviction, suffering the immense mental and emotional and physical burden that places on families, and unable to really invest in a dignified and secure future in the land that they're on. And we do have legal mechanisms available to us that are undertested. So when we looked at what was available within our legal system in order to try and get land directly into communities' hands as quickly as possible so that they have the safety and the mental security to be able to really put their energy, their time and their resources into building homes for their families in these places and building lives for themselves in the city, we found that the State Land Disposal Act was an undertested mechanism that has the potential to get land into communities' hands as quickly as possible. And that's really what we're testing here, as opposed to perhaps using expropriation or one of the other mechanisms that's available to us, is we want to see, can we encourage the President to use his discretionary power to get this land into people's hands as directly and as swiftly as possible so that they have that legal assurance of their stability on the land and they can start to build their futures in collaboration with the state, in collaboration with the non-profit and the private sector for support, but knowing that they have the safety that they cannot just be evicted tomorrow and that they can really build on those sites.
Now, Kyla, the demand to release vacant and underutilized public land to communities seems almost like a direct challenge to government policies. How do you respond to those who argue that government needs to carefully manage public land for various purposes, including potential development projects?
Look, the reality is that government service delivery cannot keep up with the extent of the housing need that we're seeing. So the government has achieved a huge amount in its housing delivery program since 1994. That can't be denied. But there have also been massive issues in the delivery, such as the quality of those structures as well as their location, and quite simply the fact that we are way behind in terms of delivery. In Cape Town alone, where we're based, there are nearly 400,000 people on the housing database, and the city of Cape Town itself has recognized that it would take 70 years to clear the existing backlog, and that is notwithstanding that the database is growing every single day. Our housing delivery in recent years, in the last decade, is declining year on year. Our homelessness rates are increasing, and urbanization is only rapidly increasing here and across the continent as it is in the rest of the world. So really, we're facing a huge crisis, and the model of carefully planned state delivery according to the very specific limitations of the housing code is simply in reality not keeping up. And this means that the reality for many of our urban population is that they are living in informal settlements, and we know how rapidly informal settlements have grown. From 1994, looking at around 300 informal settlements nationally, to now sitting with a number of around 3,000, despite what we've done in terms of housing delivery and despite the urban settlements upgrading of informal settlements policy, which we've really seen has not been used as much as it should be, as rapidly as it should be. And so this isn't a question of either or. I think it is a question of really recognizing that in reality, one model of entirely state-led development is simply not going to house people and is simply not going to secure a dignified life. We just aren't sitting in that position. So what we need to do is look at what is actually happening, which is that citizens are shaping our cities on the ground through the decisions that they have to make within ranges of very limited alternatives. And many of those decisions having to involve continued occupation in informal settlements that have not been upgraded and are not even standing to be upgraded in the near future. And for some, even the decision to create new informal settlements and to occupy to be able to secure shelter and to be able to protect their right to housing. So when people are doing this, they are in a sense being part of government's housing delivery because they are creating the solution for themselves where the state has not been able to. We're also seeing huge amounts of people facing eviction daily in our magistrates' courts, and the government offers in terms of alternative accommodation are simply unable to keep up. So I think this isn't a case of...
Sorry, Kyla, if I might come in there. How does Ndifuna Ukwazi envision the move from President Cyril Ramaphosa saying, okay, here are vast tracts of land, to a place where that land is converted into housing for many hundreds or thousands of people and subsequently occupation? Just paint a picture of that process for us, if it should work according to your plan.
100%. So thanks for the question. And it differs somewhat from application to application depending on the community applying and the parcel of land that they're applying for. So we've essentially got two different kinds of applications. One is where a community is applying for land or a building that they are currently occupying. The second is where the community is applying for an alternative piece of land or an alternative building that they could relocate to. In either case, the recommendation, and this is informed by significant input from people across the land and housing sector, the recommendation is that the community would form some form of community entity. That could be a community land trust, it could be a community cooperative, but a recognized legal entity who would be able to take transfer of that land directly from the president and who would then manage that land on behalf of the community. Our recommendation in the majority of applications is that that take place for at least 10 years and then be reassessed. And that's just so that there is a central body that is able to partner with government, partner with non-governmental organizations, and partner with the private sector for the additional support and input that we know communities will need in order to be able to develop these sites. Now, there's a definite bare minimum in terms of sites needing to be ready with bulk serviced infrastructure. And I think, again, it would depend on the specific land parcel, what is needed as an initial government investment on transfer. But the communities are also saying we are ready to step up, we are willing to invest. And so really, we were asking government to also step forward in this regard and to meet us and to give input on what kind of community formations would make the most sense in terms of receiving transfer and what would make the most sense in terms of that forward development. At the 10-year mark, communities would then be able to assess whether they would like to continue under that form of communal ownership or whether they at that stage would like to pursue transfer into individual title ownership.
Kyla, I'm afraid that's where we're going to have to leave that conversation, but appreciate you coming on to Newsfeed at the PM edition.